Susan Gamble, I'll have you, I'll turn it over to you for your presentation on iBest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm totally preaching to the choir here, except for Charday, but
I'll learn something.
But you'll learn something, and that's great. So we're going to start with a quick overview of iBest. Stands for Integrated Basic Education and Skills Training. Obviously, it's a partnership between credit classes and programs, and then the Adult Basic Ed division. We help students gain literacy, work, and college readiness skills so they can move through college faster and enter a living wage job sooner. So that's the ultimate end goal there. We use a variety of team teaching approaches in the classroom. The credit instructor delivers most of the content, but not necessarily all of it. An ABE instructor teaches the basic skills and supports students with content. Hi, Sarah. So again, we work as a partnership. And it's typically the first 1 to 2 quarters of the program. So it's a good way for students to get a soft start, get lots of support when they start college so that they'll be more successful at the end. Outcomes, hopefully will increase student efficacy so they feel more confident. It'll increase student retention because they have a good solid support at the beginning. They feel more motivated to continue. Increase student gains because they have the additional support in the classroom and during the ABE labs, if that's an option, they get the extra help and they do better in their classes. Increase student completions, again, they have a good start so they persist to the end. And then according to Columbia University's Community College Research Center, iBest students are 3 times more likely to earn college credit and 9 times more likely to earn a certificate or degree. So it's a very good case for promoting iBest on campus. Okay, quick little video. This is from the State Board website.
iBest is a data-driven delivery model that has changed how we provide adult education and English language acquisition.
Sorry, that's loud.
I'll pass around a picture from one of our former iBest. So iBest in action. You might see your own face.
iBest is a data-driven delivery model that has changed how we provide adult education and English language acquisition in Washington State. One instructor teaches foundational reading, writing, digital literacy, math, and employability skills, while the other shows students how to apply those skills in a profession. When compared to students in traditional basic skills classes, iBest students are 3 times more likely to earn college credit and 9 times more likely to earn a certificate or degree. We have the data to show that year after year, iBest works. But don't take our word for it. Here are 4 students whose lives have changed because of iBest.
Oh, is it?
I really think that there are a lot of people that have it rough in their childhood and kind of get skipped over to where when they become adult or even a young adult, they're kind of lost and have no direction. iBest can really help people recenter themselves, refocus on who they want to be, and truly bring out their true potential in who they are.
So my counselor recommended the iBest program, and the light turned on.
One of my previous teachers, she told me about iBest program. She said, in iBest program, they will help you because I'm a foreigner, English as a second language. So when I signed up and get into the iBest program, there was 2 teachers inside the classroom, and they both working very hard for in teaching.
Nobody in my family has ever gone to college. We've been going to school, yes. But not this far, as for my generation, the first one, they decided to put my foot down and say, I want to continue with education.
Before I came to TCC, I was working 2 minimum wage jobs. Most of the time I worked between 80 and 90 hours a week. And I was raising my 2 girls. I quit school in the 8th grade. Life was kind of hard. I had to learn to survive real early.
Growing up was incredibly challenging. My family was utterly dysfunctional. There was all sorts of physical, mental, sexual abuse going on in the home.
I have a big family. It's 8 children inside. We was not rich and not very poor. We just have enough food to eat. My mother, did not know how to read or write, and my father didn't finish the high school, but they both appreciate education. My mom, she said, I'm going to send all my kids to go to school no matter what, no matter how poor we are.
It wasn't until we had a brilliant child, we knew we had to support this, that I realized I needed to bring myself up to be with him. By the time he was in elementary, he was blowing me away in basic mathematics and in reading, and these are things that, my age, I should have been able to do. In this country, I should have been able to do.
I work in a hospital as a CNA and I see what the nurses do and I was like, I wanna be there. I'm on my road. I'm getting closer.
I got sick of living day to day, and it was 1 week I had to work 3 doubles back to back. And my daughter was crying. I'm like, baby, what's wrong? She's like, Daddy, I miss you. I'm like, I have to go to work. And that's when I realized, like, I can't keep doing this because they need better and they need me to see me do better for them.
In high school, math was challenging to me. I took pre-algebra 3 times, failed each time, went to college and did okay, but I didn't get past anything other than trying to take these math classes. I just was ill prepared for the load, for assimilating any kind of education.
So all I wanted was a GED, something to get me in a better warehouse, to work at Fred Meyer, some kind of better job. So I met Miss Rebecca and I figured the IBEST program, I didn't know anything about help desk, but I knew that I could make more money working 1 job than I was making 2. All I had to do was 9 months of school.
I saw all the nurses working in the area and they look so professional. And I feel like, well, I want to be one of them. The nursing assist IBEST program, I tried to apply so many places for a job, but nobody hired me. So when I took nursing assistant IBEST program, just right after I finished the class, they just hired me right away. So IBEST program to guide me, kind of give me a job or something like that, yeah.
I'm not an excellent writer, and IBEST has helped me with that to direct me on my writing.
So fast forward just a little bit, I'm now a prototype machinist that I'm making all these major components for people like NOAA, for University of Washington, and I'm utilizing these mathematics daily.
I graduated from college, and now I'm a tier 1 technician. I do telecommunications. So pretty much now I just type and go all over the world into different QBXs. When you work in a fast food or a gas station, people are kind of like, but when you're in a technical professional field, people listen to you, pump up and respect what you have to say.
I always basically carry the dictionary with me, and nowadays I carry the medical dictionary with me.
But yeah, I'm inspired to just go further and be more.
All right, I think that's pretty representative of some of the stories we hear on this campus, yeah? Okay, so part of the reason why we wanted to do this presentation is because there are lots of misconceptions about what's happening with IBEST on this campus, and I don't think people completely understand, so that's why I was pushing to do this. So the role of the ABE instructor. So what the ABE instructor is an equal, right? Equal standing, equal teachers. Support for students and your program, so you're getting that additional instructor in your classroom to help your students be more successful and help your program be more successful. They are focused on basic skills and college readiness skills for your students so that they can meet the requirements and what you're asking of them. And a resource to identify needs in students to connect them to college and community resources for success. So, I teach. I know that it's not always easy to keep eyes on every single class or student in my classroom. So having another set of eyes to watch for things where students are struggling, or they have personal issues that are affecting their progress, or they're squinting in the back of the room and you realize they might need glasses, those kinds of things, having the ABE instructor can help watch for those things. What the ABE instructor is not is a tutor, which is what we hear most often. It's not what we do. We're not there just to be a glorified tutor in the room. We're not trying to take over or steal your job as a credit instructor. We have our own jobs and we like them, right? Yes. And we're not a teaching assistant to do all your grading or teach all your classes, which I know none of you do or expect, right? But we have heard this in the past where they expect the ABA teacher to come in and just take over the class, or to do all the grading and lighten your load, but that's not actually our role, but we can help. So different team teaching strategies. The first one is traditional team teaching, where the teachers actively share content, instruction of content and skills to everybody. So just straight up traditional team teaching, you take turns, you work together. Collaborative team teachers, or team teaching, when the teachers deliver not by usual lecture, but exchanging ideas and discussing ideas and theories in front of students. So you're doing more of the modeling for your students and having a conversation instead of straight up lecture. Parallel team teaching is when you can split your students into different groups based on their level. So if the teacher is responsible for the same material to the smaller group, so you can do that by levels, you can do that just to connect with students a little better if you have a larger classroom. Split differentiated team teaching, so this is based on learning needs specifically. Each instructor provides the respective group the instruction needed to meet learning needs and focus around the differences in delivery, style, and pacing. So where some students might be able to handle a quick lecture without much detail, other students might need more detail, more explanation, more examples, so you can run at a little different pace. Complementary team teaching. One teacher is responsible for teaching content to the students. The other teacher assigns the follow-up work focusing on skill or knowledge building. So do that additional support. And then monitoring team teaching. One teacher assumes responsibility for instructing the entire class, and the other teacher circulates the room and monitors students' understanding and behavior. And that is probably, from my experience, my limited experience of IBEST, what happens most often, but it's not always the best route. So benefits for instructors, why it's a good idea for credit instructors to jump on the IBEST train here. You gain a teammate, you get support in planning lessons and activities, additional support for students in monitoring struggling students, and you can share the grading responsibilities if you choose. Increase student outcomes and success, which is good for our students, it makes us look good too. When teaching a difficult concept, one instructor can work with students who are ready to continue, while the other works with those needing extra help. This is what I do a lot and with my IBEST colleague. Depending on the classroom and available whiteboards, an IBEST teacher could demonstrate note-taking techniques or spell out definitions, that kind of thing, while the other instructor is teaching, so have that additional modeling and support. IBEST instructors are able to assist with various questions during class and group activities when the content instructor is working with others. So I'm sure we've all been in that position in a classroom where we feel like we can't get to everybody and meet everybody's needs at the same time. We can't be more than one place. So the IBEST teacher allows for that. Students benefit from extra daily lab support from the IBEST instructor. They get higher grades. With the CASAS test, which is required of any ABE program, so it comes with IBEST. Sometimes the CASAS can alert us to needs. So if they're taking the CASAS and they have a particularly low math score, we know that they might need some support in math if that's part of the program. If they have a low reading score, we can identify those skills too. If one instructor is absent, the class can continue with the other instructors, so you don't have to cancel class and lose a content day. We can still continue and move forward. And both instructors benefit and grow from collaborating with a colleague. I know I learn more about teaching by watching other teachers teach, and this gives me the opportunity to do it, and I'm sure that's how most of you feel. Challenges for instructors, it's new. We don't like new. New's hard. New's different. You need to work with an additional instructor. So sometimes when you've been teaching the same content over and over again and thinking about how another teacher is going to fit into that role or fit into that classroom, that can be a challenge. Sometimes that means rethinking established lessons, activities, and assignments to allow for team teaching. So you have to rethink delivery and how you're going to approach different lessons to incorporate the team teaching strategies so that you can make good use of having that second instructor. Planning, we're busy, it's hard to find time to plan. and have those conversations. And then having a new IBEST teacher in your classroom can be challenging, right?
Okay, so I do have a question.
Yes.
I'm not sure how like the program works in general. So is there like an IBEST instructor in certain programs, in certain classes? Like if a student is in the program, what does that mean exactly?
Okay, so yes, there are 2 on this campus, right?
I have an example of a schedule right here.
There you go. That's why I brought support, right? The whole room is my support. Yeah, so there are 2 programs on campus. There's the academic math IBEST and BT, but it has other pieces, right? No? It feeds into other things.
Business technology, I
Yeah.
guess.
But you got, the BT IBEST students feed into other programs other than BT, right?
Oh, after, yeah,
Yeah,
there
after.
are some different programs.
So they overlap.
Oh, I was thinking.
Classes.
So depending on how IBEST is set up, it can be a whole program or it could be a whole first cohorted quarter. Or it can be individual classes. Sarah, catch me if I'm wrong. Does that sound right?
Here on this campus, they're set up in the cohort.
For a whole quarter, like for a whole group? Okay.
So how does it determine which instructors work with an IBEST instructor? Is it based off of like who, sorry.
No, this is good.
You're making it all. Is it based off of like the established like program?
Yeah.
Like how, okay, so
Yeah.
so there's a process to get a program or a degree or a certificate approved as an IBEST. So, and that's through collaboration between the respective department and ABE, and we send a joint application to the state board. So that pre-approval happens, and then once that step occurs, then individual classes or cohorts are then identified as IBEST offerings.
Okay.
That then an ABE instructor is then paired with those.
So then all the students in that particular class is that IBEST cohort specifically? Okay.
So for this math one, I'm currently doing now because we just started it, but I'm trying to find somebody else in the math department that's interested as well. You know, so as far as who's teaching it, it could get passed off to other instructors that are interested in.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
No, that was good.
Please.
And in our department, we have 4 instructors. So I do the English, Ken does the math, Donna does the computer literacy, and then we have strategies and student success. And so right now there are 11 of them, and they just move from class to class together all day long. And then Sam does the
instructor, the IBEST instructor.
the ABE and does the like study labs and those things too.
So both of the ones on campus have that additional piece of the ABE lab where they can do additional support, review concepts, things like that. And those are covered by Sam and Laura.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. And then varying instructor dynamics can be another challenge. So Sarah, I know, works really hard to try to best fit with the cohorted program. So she's really looking at who makes sense. She knows us relatively well. She knows our personalities. So she's just looking for a good fit into the credit program. And timing, both in figuring out how to manage the timing in the classroom with 2 instructors, and also, again, finding time to plan and structure everything. Tips for successful partnerships, explicitly discuss everything and have clear communication. When you're working with 2 people, that can get complicated and people have different views of what should be happening in the classroom and what the students' needs are. So every time you can have really explicit, clear, don't hold back conversations, that's gonna make the partnership better. Be honest about strengths and weaknesses as instructors to find ways to balance one another. Establish a procedure for addressing conflicts, differences, student concerns. So I've heard stories of teachers on SCC's campus where the credit instructors would get frustrated if the ABE teachers kind of solved all the problems. And so they had to work together closely to make sure that the ABE teacher was coaching students to go talk to their credit instructor to get the help they need, instead of having the ABE instructor solve all the problems for them. So, and be the middleman. So those kinds of things come up with any partnership, and having a clearer understanding of how you're going to handle those things, how you're going to talk through something if you feel uncomfortable, that should be happening from the very beginning. And then talk through each step of every lesson, clearly define roles for each instructor. So while you're teaching this, I'm doing this, and then we're going to switch to this part and I'm doing this. So you know what's going to happen throughout the class time. And both teachers should take an active role in every stage of the lesson, and that helps keep that mentality that the ABE instructor is a glorified tutor out of the picture. So it's not just I'm in the room and I'm just standing around and watching somebody else teach. We're getting active interaction with students too.
And one of the strategies for that when it's a new partnership is we encourage outside some non-instructional time for if it's an adjunct to meet and have dedicated time outside the classroom to kind of set that up.
That's
I
fun.
find that the classroom experience is far better if that time is taken ahead of time.
And that's funded,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay, so now it's your turn. You guys get to talk for a while. So we'll help Panopto people, but we'll also, you guys can share kind of what's happening in your different IBES. So what does IBES look like in your classroom? Who wants to start? Chris, Carrie, I'm looking at you.
She might want.
What does it look like in my classroom?
Yeah.
Well, I think probably, I don't remember what your title was of that model, where I do most of the instruction and then Laura provides the support. But I would like to find ways to try to utilize both of us better during the class time. Your presentation kind of inspired me to try to, you know, our model's really new. It's only the second quarter that we've done it, and we were just talking earlier today about how to better utilize lab time, and I kind of joked, but it's kind of true. We'll just get better every quarter, and by the time we retire, we'll have it figured out.
Yeah.
You know, so I think.
But I think that that's one of the benefits of staying with an IBES program for longer, is that like we are like growing together, and also beyond that, like I'm not the content expert. But now I'm getting so much more familiar with your content, and I'm getting more confident in helping the students. So I think my role gets to grow and evolve as our partnership does. So.
And as we start to figure things out, I know our first cohort is completely different than our second cohort.
Yeah.
And so, you know, those pesky students just mess everything up once you got it all figured out. So, you know, you always have, exactly. So hopefully we can put some things in place that are adaptable to different types of cohorts as we go through them.
And I think it's different depending on the content and the teacher. Like my role in Jill's class is very different than the role that I play in like computers. Because, you know, I mean, it's every class is different, and so, you know, for
for me, you do check work. I mean, just check it off, make sure, communicate with the students. I like her in there, number one, to say, I don't think they understand this, she's taking the temperature in my room, can you give another example? Or she gives an example. Sam doesn't really teach curriculum, but I know she's very capable of doing that.
well, and if Jill can't come, then
Yeah, you are gonna teach a class for me here pretty soon. And so, but I don't expect that of her, but I do expect her to watch body language and that kind of thing and say, oh, wow, maybe they need more explanation.
Well, and what was the last model? Or I don't know, it was like where there was like it was on the bottom for the model where the monitoring.
Monitoring,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say.
Oh, the other teacher. Oh yeah. Oh no, that wasn't it.
I know that Will Durden.
That you're
did
Traditional, are you
this,
thinking of the traditional one?
No.
You're doing
Oh,
that
I
in
think it
one
was
of
the
six.
complementary team, when who's
Mhm.
responsible for teaching
Yeah.
content, the other teacher
Yeah, you do
assigns
that too.
follow-up work, yeah. But
One
I
thing
think, I think it's the
Will
complementary.
Durden talked about, I guess I went to his training, I think it was last year, was the role of he called it super student. So when you're not like astronomy, for example, like I came into that class knowing nothing really about astronomy, but I got to model being a super student. So I took really detailed notes. I kept track of all the tests, and I shared that with the students. I'd say, this is what I put them on like the whiteboard or the projector. This is what my notes look like today. This is my takeaway. This should be your takeaway. And let's talk about these things and ask questions that maybe you weren't comfortable asking in class. So.
Yeah, because you run a lab just designated for my class, so she does a study lab.
So the IBES that I do at SCC at Phelps Field, I don't have a lab. It's just one class because it's like the also ran part of another IBES program. So we picked up the math class for it, and I do much of the same thing. So I do super student stuff, but I also watch for body language. So I have been through that content enough now that I know where people get stuck and where people get hung up. So if nobody's asking questions and I'm looking around and I know that they have problems, then I'm asking question after question after question for clarity. Or can you give one more example? Can you show them this process in a little different way or another option because they're not understanding this one? But being able to read that body language, I think it's really helpful.
What is lab time? Is that like work times or?
Can be lots of things.
Yeah,
Study
it
hall.
looks different almost every day sometimes. It could be.
So sometimes, depending on what's coming up, it could be a test review. It could be.
I've retaught an entire lecture before.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's some days where like I'll just reteach everything just in a different way than the content teacher.
So that's that like underlying extra support.
Yeah. But then also sometimes students will be working completely independently and I'm just like.
Just study hall,
Yeah, it's a study hall, but then I can like answer specific questions depending on each student.
Would you be a content teacher or ABE? I'm not sure where you.
Oh, I'm a librarian, so.
Oh, okay, I just wasn't sure how she's looking at this.
Yeah. So I've worked with like Anna and Colette, and like I'll come in and do like lesson on citations and what have
Oh,
you,
yeah. Mary's my best friend.
Yes, love Mary.
Yeah.
But also, I'm just curious because sometimes when people like students just have questions in general, they come to the library.
Yes,
so I
they
just find
do.
it's helpful to know about as much stuff as I can. So have some context to actually help them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. What team teaching strategies do you typically use? We kind of talked about that, yeah? Ken, you want to add anything? I'm going to call you
We
out.
covered the complementary and monitoring, but after seeing all the other styles, I think we also do a little bit of collaborative and the split differentiated, where different groups, different times, which I call it the study hall time, but that's an opportunity for her to go over. There's a vast variety of skill levels amongst the students, so some absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably the one, your class is the one class that I do like reteaching, not because you didn't do it, but because. That's not how you No, that's not how I. But mostly because I'm also a math teacher. But then I feel like with math especially, like one thing will work for one student and another student doesn't get it, and then if you can explain it in a different way, so that's really, I think, like what makes it really great for the math especially is because that's a subject that people struggle with and the learning style can differentiate, and so having the two separate teachers who maybe think about things differently, that, you know, maybe 75 or 80% of the classes gets it, you know, perfectly fine the first time, but then I'll like reteach it completely to students, or there's students who maybe don't have a lot of math, and so hearing it a second time, that's mostly what it is. It's not your teaching.
Yeah.
I also have classes
But hearing it a second time, like, kind of
Yeah.
solidifies it.
I have classes that are IBES students and non-IBES students combined. So sometimes my IBES students, like it moves faster than maybe they were, they're embarrassed to ask questions, and then, you know, so then they come to lab and like, I didn't understand anything that happened today, and I didn't want to say anything. Okay,
And we
let's do
have
it
that
again
too.
then.
We have that too.
We do, in mine, we do split differentiated sometimes, but sometimes that looks like me sitting between two students and whisper teaching.
Right.
While everybody else moves forward. But it works. Whisper teaching. We just reteach this real fast, all over again.
And also the thing about every quarter is so different.
Oh, yeah.
Like completely different. You can't predict on it. So like there was one quarter where everyone wanted to work on English, like every study lab. And this quarter, like no one has wanted to work on. Not that they don't want to work on English, but they haven't needed it.
Yeah.
As much as other quarters where they needed to hear it.
Last quarter.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. And there's such a difference between fall, winter, and spring.
Yeah. I think I just got
And
lucky.
motivation, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and just the student ability
Everyone was
too.
like still recovering from
Yeah,
last quarter.
it was pretty rough quarter.
Okay, have you seen a difference in success rates and persistence in your IBEST students compared to your non-IBEST students? So this is more for the credit folks.
I can probably tackle that one more than a lot of folks, because I've been doing it a long time, and I track that amongst classes. And the pass rate of the lab-based class that the rest of campus takes is about 70%, where in IBEST, where the students you would expect to be the most challenged to have success in college, the pass rate's over 90%.
Easy.
So it's a dramatic increase over the general population of college. So the proof is in the pudding. So
And even having my two rosters side by side, I can't believe the attendance in this IBEST this quarter. Yeah, I mean, that varies, but yeah, by perfect attendance a lot. The sun's kind of made a challenge, but yeah, and as far as what they do after, we have 11 IBEST students and 8 of them are staying in our department to earn a certificate or degree. And the other 3 are, 2 of them are going somewhere else and the other one will be back later. But they're staying in college. That's the biggie.
Do they come in with like a certificate or degree in mind, or is it something that'll
Depends on the
go?
program.
They have to have a particular program, like we're business, professional technical, and it's in our BT program. So they have to come in with one of our certificates or degrees.
Yeah, they're coded
Is that correct, Sarah? Okay, they're coded. Otherwise we can't count them.
I would say another significant reason why these students do better in IBEST is the ABE instructor. Because every conscientious instructor, us core people, want to be empathetic with all our students and get to know them all, but the reality is we don't have enough time with them to get to know them very well. Where they follow them around throughout the day, they're involved in their lives, and sometimes even more than they want to be involved in their lives. But they learn all kinds of things about them and motivate them to keep coming. And that makes the big difference, is that they connect with someone here on campus. So it's really invaluable what that piece does.
Well, and we'll like follow up, like if someone's gone, like
One's my neighbor,
days.
and every time I see him on the block, I yell at him to go to school. To me, it's actually, Rodney's my neighbor, it turns out. I see him all the time,
great.
what are you doing?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so
because-
like I'll follow up and call, like if someone's not there, and also to have to, if they're like making excuses all the time, you get kind of tired making excuses, like, so I mean, if I'm.
Sam does a really good job with that. But just like yesterday, we talked about a student that had been here for a while. You made the call, she's here today. Yeah.
I didn't
She does
actually
a
make
really
the call,
good
I said
job.
I would make the call today if she wasn't.
Oh, well, I
So
just
don't
thought
give me
you
that
did. Okay. But
Don't
still.
give me that credit, yeah, she was really sick, so
Yeah.
I was like, I'll give her a few days.
But we don't let them fall off the face of the earth.
And that relationship, all of these strategies is one of the reasons why we are interested in looking at the pathways work that SFCC has done and try and find ways to maybe implement the IBEST model into more first quarter, because even taking away the idea that IBEST is to serve struggling students, really just as this is a strong first quarter experience that we can give every student, then we think that their career as a SFCC student throughout will be much more improved as a result of all of this, these strategies that come with IBEST. That's the hope.
I think
What is your first name?
Sharday, SHARDE.
I say Shay-R-D-E. I'd like to invite you to our completion ceremony.
Oh, sure.
And you have her email. She is the one that
Yeah.
sends out all the brown bag invites for faculty
Okay.
development.
I would like you to attend our completion ceremony on the 14th. I'll send you an
I will
invite.
be here.
Awesome.
I think one of the perceptions in the academic side is that iBest is for struggling students but one of my concerns when we were developing the 88-107 is our iBest, and I've had some experience with ABE programs, so I know they have to get below a certain thing on the CASAS, and I didn't know, someone that tests into 88, are they gonna get below this level on the CASAS? I didn't know, and yes, they do, all of them.
They do.
So it's like, are they a struggling student? And so if you look at math placement, I think it's 70% now of people that take the placement test into DevEd.
It doesn't take much. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't test out of the CASAS test.
Especially in math.
Oh, no.
or-
It's not a common thing to test out of it.
Yes.
So if you wanna talk about struggling students, that's, 50% of the students that are just taking math classes at Spokane Falls, they're not this special identified little group, they are our students in the math program, so.
Well, it sounds like a lot of like the struggles that we just talk about in general with students coming out of college, figuring out how to,
Okay. What do you like best about iBest? Chris. Laura.
I like the success rates. I like the retention rates.
There's a dean perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I would like my picture back, because that's one of the
Ah.
things. There will be a hole, there is right now a hole on the wall in my
Yes.
office. I put those up each quarter since this is kind of a unique program.
I have
We do
them
picture day each
from fall
quarter.
2012.
And so I have all the pictures there, and
That's a good idea.
I started later putting their names across the bottom, because they were like, all right, yeah.
We can't remember.
They'll come find me again later, like, oh, Ken, how you doing? Gosh, here's what I'm doing now.
Go back to your office and go, where are they?
My math elementary ed.
Yeah.
I love
He's
the
finishing
connection
his
they
quarter.
make. Like I have a couple students from a cohort I did in SCC who are now on this campus. And I see them all over the place now and they're always like, oh, I just love the updates and the how are yous and the here's what I'm doing and just that, like, I mean, you can see it in action, like they felt connected, grounded that first quarter and here they are just succeeding in their fourth quarter, fifth quarter, whatever.
I like that too.
It's my favorite.
And the student connections, we find that those students in the cohort, depending on the cohort, but they do make connections and they keep those connections years and years later. They're meeting for coffee. I just signed 8 of them up for my 272 course and they're so excited that they know each other and they're in the class together. And it's easy and exciting for me too, because I know those students.
I think there's a lot to be said for the cohort model.
Oh,
Because you really get close to each other when you're spending that much time together, going from class to class.
And they,
I think the thing that I like about it right now is just the challenge of it. I think academic iBest is a different animal than,
It is.
so academic iBest is the 88-107. They have to be able to earn college credit or have the opportunity to earn college level credit in 1 quarter. And so it's a puzzle to try to figure out, because I don't think all students would benefit from that push. We have all these students testing into DevEd, and to say, okay, if you tested into 87, should we set something up to give you the opportunity to go 87, 88, 107 all in 1 quarter? And my department's like, and I feel the same way, that's not good. Because they need time to learn this material. They're not there yet. And even the students that are just testing into 88 probably wouldn't benefit from that. So it's a puzzle right now I think there's a student that it benefits, but who is that student? And I haven't quite figured that out yet. And once we can identify that, this program can really help them. But the first quarter I only took students with super high placement scores and they all did great. 12 of them that we picked, 11 of them got 88 and 107 credit in 1 quarter. Then this quarter is the second time I was like, okay, let's lower that level and try picking some high 87s. Or, and we have this mishmash, and it's not gonna be the same success rate, although most of them are gonna get their 88 at least. And so I probably have a too high of a.
Although I'm curious though, if these were all first quarter students and I had them all day and they were a true cohort and
Yeah, it is a little
it would
bit,
shake out different. Yeah.
Oh, I think so.
because it's spring, they're not all in the academic class, the astronomy, because some of them had already taken astronomy, so.
Which means some of them, or they have class during lab time, so they're not coming,
Yeah.
they can't cover that extra
So
support.
they don't see each other all day long?
Not all of them,
That makes me ask a question.
a smaller group.
To what you're saying. So you can't IBEST a class that is strictly 87, 88?
Nope. They have to have the opportunity
That's
to.
too bad, because
Yeah.
those students would
Yeah.
benefit from the model and just not be
Absolutely.
pushed to go clear to
So the only things,
100.
I think there's other ways outside of the IBES model that
Yeah,
you know,
there's
to look at. I think
co-requisites.
that this kind of incentivizes people to think about
Right.
creative ways to do that, but as a true IBES, no.
yeah, the math department just got a grant, actually, the whole district, it's lots, I don't know, $250,000 or something crazy amount of money. And part of it is gonna be exploring all these models, co-requisite model, like they could take 87 and 88 at the same time, but they pay for 10 credits. Like this 88 107 IBEST, they're paid for 5 credits no matter what. Even if they pass 88 and 107, they still only pay for 5 credits. They just go and check off their prereq in the 88. They don't get credited for it, because what does it matter? It's Dev Ed. They don't, it doesn't matter if they don't get credits for 88. They just need the prereq to meet the requirements of the direct transfer agreement. So, it's lots
It is
of.
different, really
It's
different.
very
pretty cool, but yeah, it's cool.
If they only pass, they actually are registering for an 88 class. So if they only pass the 88, it'll just look like they registered for 88, passed 88.
So that's a real good.
No.
Right.
It is.
Even if they
And they
get,
have to pay for books.
Yeah.
yeah, and I had to do open educational resource, because we have one book for 88 and one book for 107, and I'm not gonna make them buy $200 worth of books and then try to incorporate that. So that's been a challenge, coming up with the,
It's working out pretty well though. I would.
thank you. Yeah, it's, I just gave a presentation last weekend at the Washington Math Community College Conference about the academic IBEST, and so that was interesting talking. There are only, I think, maybe one other college in the state that's trying something with the math academic IBEST, because it's just a challenge to.
It's a testament to the fact that you took this on, so,
That's,
and have been making it work, even if it's still, like you said, it's still a puzzle.
it's a puzzle, yeah.
Impressive. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's, you're welcome.
Okay, so I asked you what you like best, so you know what's coming next, right?
What do you like?
What's challenging about it? What's difficult?
I think I already answered.
You did answer that. You answered it.
We did that for all of us.
I really can't think of anything challenging in our particular, I don't know.
I think that adjusting every quarter to the
Yeah, that's-
students, and sometimes, like this quarter isn't particularly challenging, but last quarter.
They kept me on my toes. It was challenging, but actually I liked kind of keeping me on my toes. There was no relaxing last quarter.
Well, and we also have a lot of change with Stephanie being gone, and then she was out, so then Laura stepped in, and then it was an unusually difficult group to begin with, so it was interesting.
But speaking to that group though, like some of those students, like I don't think they would still be here if they had
Oh,
done this
no.
last quarter.
No,
Yeah, like there's,
no, they're still trying,
I don't know if they would be otherwise.
and many of them will tell you that.
What about me?
Yeah.
What's challenging? So this is not supposed to be disrespectful to any of you three, because clearly you've drunk the Kool-Aid and you're in this, but getting the credit faculty to buy in and really understand what my role is, and be seen as an equal, and that's the biggest challenge for
Do
me.
credit faculty, are they asked to teach, you're just gonna do the IBEST, or they're not like volunteering?
So I don't know how much I should say, it's going on YouTube. The class that I'm teaching is out at Phelps Field, and so it's
Aviation?
Yeah, and it's in like afternoon class. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 4, which is not a good time for math. And it's not a good time to do, like, it's not a good strategy to do split days on math for 2 hours, right? It's not, but that's what they can do for their FAA requirements, so that's how it fits into their schedule. But it's not exactly the most desirable math department placement. And so
Is it taught by the math department at SEC?
it's taught by the math department by SEC. So my credit instructor that I work with is an adjunct. And he's great. He has a huge challenge in front of him to teach what they need, teach the content. So the focus that we have is starting at basic add, subtract, multiply, divide with whole numbers, and go to right angle trig in a quarter, which is nuts.
A lot.
And it's a lot to tackle. He does a great job, but it's challenging. It is. It's you know, it's not the best format for the class, but it's what we got.
And then when I say sometimes, we have found that unbeknownst to us, that as we're coming into IVEST and some conversations are happening here, and then all of a sudden we learn that the faculty that this directly impacts wasn't asked, do you want to be a part? And so so that's why things like this are really important to, we're trying to get out and about, really talk about IVEST. There's a TLC event happening, it's on SCC's campus, but I mean, it's all about IVEST, so come on over if you are interested in creating that conversation. Because we really want, what we have found is that obviously when the buy-in happens, when it's faculty who want this to come into their classroom, clearly that's the first important step for everything, right?
Sure.
And then, so to unravel, once we've discovered, wow, we've entered this, and they may or may not even have an opinion about it, but just the fact that it's been paid, all of a sudden you have someone else in your classroom and make it work, can be challenging. So we're trying to get ahead of that.
Yeah, I can tell you, Laura, you went, Joni went, Stephanie and I remember we went over, and we attended an IVEST conference.
Yeah.
And it was like, what are we doing here? Because it was a lot of dissension between the content teacher and the ABE instructor, and we're like, you don't work together? No, I don't want to do that, and I don't want that person in my room, and it's all over the state, you know, and hopefully it's getting under control, but we looked at each other like, I guess we can get on the airplane and go home, because we have it going, we're doing it, you know.
I think that's part of the problem too, is that misconception about what that other person in the room is and what their purpose is. So what I've heard just from folks around campus, they just don't understand. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is we had somebody ask us the other day, Colette and I, my college prep teaching partner, she said, so you're just a tutor, right? We said, no, not just a tutor. We do so much more. Let me tell you all about it. But I think that's a misconception. So it's either that you're a tutor in my classroom and I don't need you, or I don't really want you like spying on me and watching me teach and reporting that to somebody. It's like this, like we're an interloper spy coming to get you, and that's not the case at all.
I have an idea about that, because I was chatting with one of my ABE buddies and talking about that, and I had never experienced that problem either. I'm working with my fourth ABE partner and have the good fortune to have a great relationship with all four of them. So I've never experienced that firsthand, but hearing the stories about the instructor not wanting them in there, and it's like, well, how did they ever get in the same room? And thought that should never happen. That's like a court-ordered marriage. You two will go get married.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're really like a family.
Yeah.
Those two need to work together, otherwise the children are affected, and not to be political. Children have been talking about that relationship is similar. Like, to think of it as a family metaphor. That if you're forcing two instructors to work together that don't want to, it's going to jeopardize the student's education.
Right.
And to try to have a helpful solution, not to fix, but you could, in the comfort of your own quiet place, narrate this presentation you did for us, and I would think all the core faculty that are going to work in an IBEST should have to watch that at a minimum to understand what they're getting into, and then make a conscientious choice if they're willing to do that. And if they're not, why force it? Because
Right.
you know it's not gonna work if they don't want to.
Right, and students feel that. They know when something's not working. They, I mean, as much as we try to hide it, they know.
It's a good idea.
That's a good idea. Okay, so I don't have any more questions, but on there. But what I do want to ask, since it's all IBEST people for the most part, why do you think? So at SCC we're growing more programs all the time, but there's some hesitation on this campus. So I'm wondering, why do you think there's hesitation over here to walk into IBEST?
People don't know about it.
I think
It is something you have to advertise. You have, I mean, we tried another program, but you have to get out there. I mean, and you have to be at the NSOs, and you have to.
So I don't mean the students, I mean the faculty.
Oh, the faculty.
The program.
Well, we've had faculty willing to do it, but then we can't get the students in the classes.
Well, and I think some of us have talked about this. People have long memories, and we've got the oldest IBEST in the district on this campus, and it started back in the day when IBEST was a different creature.
Exactly.
Different goals. And so I think part of that is institutional memory, that people still associate IBEST with this very specific, narrow program.
So they're getting in their own way.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of changing perspective.
And it's not a needy program. Kind of.
It's just an amazing program that supports students.
I like how you, well, renaming an SEC campus would benefit that over here as well. And maybe change the name.
They changed it to.
Well, the academic IBEST runs as an English-based one on SCC's campus, and they changed their name to Smart Start.
Smart Start, I like
Took
that.
IBEST out of the title, because students don't know what IBEST is.
No.
Students have, and it doesn't.
Faculty don't know what the acronym of IBEST, and it's not even particularly.
No, that is the definition, Smart Start.
And really, the acronym isn't entirely fitting anymore.
It's not.
To be
Right.
honest.
Right, so that's why we just unofficially, I mean, it still is an IBEST program by definition of the state, but Smart Start is the new name, at least for academic IBEST.
My only hesitation was that we have some
I like
last
it.
quarter students was my only hesitation about the name. Like, it's like, you know, a last quarter student, I'd be like, oh, I'm not doing Smart Start, everyone's done. That was my only hesitation, but otherwise I love the concept.
Is that a state name or a SCC
It's
name?
our whole name, yeah.
Is it a district name?
Well, again, this was just for now, the academic IBEST work group.
Okay.
As we were trying to find, so just, probably far more information, but SCC, it's English-based, and SCC has opted away from in-person NSOs, and they took away placement. And so our
Oh,
English
as a college,
IBEST
okay.
at SCC,
Okay.
right. So our English placement, or our English IBESTs struggled as a result of those
Sure.
two things. We could not
Get the
get in front of students
Yeah.
to talk about it. So simply putting it on the online NSO IBEST.
Right.
But, you know, we knew that wasn't going to work. So part of this whole redesign to try and capture students as a result of these two significant changes that happened on this campus. Also, in those conversations came out like, what does IBEST really say? Nothing. So then we said, okay, so we stumbled upon Smart Start, and that's how we rebranded that particular one.
Not all of them.
Just that one. However.
But is that the academic, that's the only academic IBEST at SCC?
True.
And is the math the only academic IBEST one here?
True.
So there's only two in the district.
But I am not opposed to if we want to rebrand as a district, what we're calling IBEST as Smart Start, there's.
And I think having the
it can grow.
academic IBEST branded different than the, because they're so different.
Okay, that might be good.
They're different. Yeah.
So,
One's for
yeah, so we
transfer
can
students, one's not.
use that name as much as we want to.
Gotta
Or
remake
come
the
up with-
flyers.
Yeah.
You should have printed a whole box.
And I didn't print that many, so.
Yeah, Milwaukee's.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because they don't know what it means anyway.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter.
And that might help with the campus perception then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it a new name.
I
Yeah,
was thinking,
yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
maybe just something that's very simple.
Yeah.
It's he who shall not be named.
And we can
I
talk
don't think
about
we're like related, but not.
Chris, do you think that's something you guys might start to get?
Yeah, I think so. Okay.
Start
We
with
did
it.
all the same stuff.
We're done.
Just as far as
You
like
guys are all in the same building.
rebranding it, you mean, coming up with a different name or using the same name?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
No,
Oh, do you have a question?
But students are starting, right? They're still, are they taking this later?
They're not taking it later.
Right, so it's
Some
still
of
a
them though,
start.
maybe at the end because
Most of our first day.
most of them,
Right.
especially fall, we're really focusing on new students. And spring is a little more challenging and winter's a little more challenging, but it might end up being like different kinds of classes, just fall, winter, spring because of where they are on their math path.
From what I'm hearing though, that's not, I mean, it's not gonna be very common for students to wait till the very end to do math anymore, cause people are gonna start
We'll see.
getting the encouragement to do it at the very early.
Yeah,
Like, is it campus-wide?
yeah, I have like 3 in my class right now that wanna get 88, 107 because that's all they need to graduate in the spring. Like this spring, and
Oh my gosh,
I'm like,
You'll always have those. It
yeah.
doesn't matter how
Yeah.
structured we are and how good our best.
There's a loophole for
I
everything.
need
We'll
this.
always have
Yeah,
those.
exactly. Which wasn't a good reason to let them in. You know, desperation was not a good reason. 'Cause-
So I
Thank
looped
you.
most of you in, so thank you for coming. I really appreciate you
You're never
showing
gonna
up.
get it
Thank you.
perfect, and like you can only do
Thanks,
so
Sarah.
much, and there's going to be people who aren't successful, no matter what you do.
Yeah.